Welcome back to Tactical Insight, everyone. This is a difficult one. Obviously, Arsenal didn't win the North London derby. They didn't lose. It felt like that. In fact, I was actually caught on, I think, Fanzone or something, sort of talking about, Spurs getting a win, and I was like, oh, actually, no, it didn't. I had to be reminded that, of course, we did split the points. And I just want to thank anyone who's actually clicked on this video, because I know that it's difficult indulging in Arsenal-related content, especially on the back of a result that I think we've all found very disappointing. But do stick with us, because I think there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff in this that explains what Arteta's plan was, why it failed, and where we go from here. I want to explore all that, including the substitutions and everything. It is just me again today. Graham, hope you're having an amazing time in the US. Let's break it down, and we start where we always start, with the match stats. It's the only place to start. 2 goals each, 13 shots each, 6 shots on target for Arsenal to Tottenham's 5. But we had less possession, 46% to their 54%. Still managed a better XG, 2.19 to their 1.31. I think the penalty would have played a big part. I can't remember what the value of a penalty is in terms of XG, but that would have helped significantly. So somewhat the story is telling us, well, pretty even game. Yes, they outdid us for possession. We just edged them on the XG front. But I actually think that possession stat is quite key. We had 46% possession to their 54. They came to the Emirates and played their football. Why did this happen? Why was this allowed? What do we need to learn from this? Because what I've got here is the 2-11s. Now, let's start with, the interesting calls, okay? So Fabio Vieira starts, he came in for Kai Havertz, who played in the Champions League in the week, and Eddie Nketiah led the line. Now, we didn't know if Eddie Nketiah was going to start out on the left with Jesus up top, or, in fact, it is Jesus out wide, and Nketiah leading the line. It meant that Jesus at times was having to drop deep. Ødegaard was going up to press with Nketiah. Vieira was tucking in next to Rice. And actually I thought we actually did okay in terms of a defensive shape. But there were questions over Eddie Nketiah starting, especially because Leandro Trossard was out. We found out kind of basically in the morning of the game, and there were rumours on social media. Martinelli gone, so that meant our 2 first-choice left wingers were missing. Questions over why Reece Nelson wasn't playing. I think they're fair questions, but ultimately this is what he went with. So Arsenal's plan in this game, and I think it's easy for me as an Arsenal fan to sit here and go, well, we gave them possession. I don't think that's true, but I do think there was a plan in the first half to somewhat concede possession, especially in key moments and key areas, in an attempt to try and win the ball back in transition and really test Spurs and go, how good are you really on the ball, and how does it match with our press? Now, this reminds me of something we did against Brighton in a 3-0 defeat last season. Now, I know everyone's going to go, well, if we lost 3-0 to Brighton doing it, who also didn't have De Zerbi that long before they came to the Emirates and did what they did, why did we think this was going to work against Tottenham? And that's a fair question, but it did have some joy. So let's try and illustrate on the tactical pad what the plan was. I've got, like I said, the 2 formations. And if it moves, there we go. We move Arsenal up the pitch. We're going to give Romero a football here, and we're just going to show Arsenal's press in this game a little bit. So you've got Nketiah kind of keeping an eye on Basuma. I felt that at times we were allowing them to have the ball in certain areas, like Romero there. It wasn't an aggressive, all out, let's completely suffocate them, but we were picking our moments. So when a certain ball would maybe come into midfield, if I just show it here, then maybe that would invite, let's get rid of that. That would invite maybe Fabio Vieira to come and press. It wasn't just him. Sometimes Maddison would come into that pocket. And in fact, we had an opportunity come from Jesus dispossessing Maddison, didn't we? It was that ball into Maddison. Jesus wins the ball, and he's basically on the penalty spot. He's got to score. He doesn't. If he does, that puts us 2-0 up. I did feel that there were holes in this plan at times, though, when the ball actually was with Romero, and we got sucked into it. So at times, maybe, and it wasn't always Eddie. I'm sort of just illustrating it like in theory. This isn't an exact moment. But there are times where I felt we got drawn to the player with the ball. We didn't quite know whether to press or to stick to our man and invite them forward a little bit. And then Basuma would just find pockets and would turn out with the ball. And I just felt that there were moments where, yes, we kind of teased them into try play through us, and we had some joy winning the ball back. At times, Udogie was inverting, at times it was Pedro Porro, and we were able to kind of squeeze them in that space and win the ball back, but largely they had some joy playing out as well. Now, like I said, we had some joy with it, and I think the way to illustrate this best is with some of these graphics from who scored. There's 4 of them. Now keep with me. So what I've got here, as you can see highlighted in green at the bottom of your screen in this graphic, is the tackles attempted by both sides. Not by both sides. Well, you can see by both sides, because the blue text is Tottenham there and the blue number 30 is Arsenal. But on the on the map above, you can see on the pitch, the orange dots are just Arsenal tackles attempted. Now look how many of them are actually attempted in the attacking half for Arsenal. I mean, what's that? I think that's 14 attempted tackles in Tottenham's attacking third, and I bet you anything a lot of them took place in that first half. Let's move to interceptions, of which Arsenal attempted 11 interceptions, and 6 of them came in that first half as well. So, sorry, not in that first half, in the attacking half. Really struggling to get through that. In the attacking half. So again, an intention to try and win the ball up the pitch and try and cause them some problems. Let's move again to this stat. Loss of possession. Arsenal losing the ball much higher up the pitch, typically not so much defensively, but we've got the blue dots here, which is Tottenham as well, and you can see how often Tottenham did actually lose the ball in their own half, in dangerous areas. Look how many of them are kind of in that zone 14 / central defensive third for Spurs. That would have been disappointing, and Arsenal were able to capitalise on that a little bit. And then we go to this one, errors. Tottenham made 2 errors. I think that one, that sort of left-back error, is the Udogie one where Nketiah's through on goal, and could he do better? I mean, probably. But then you can see the Jorginho one as well. But 1 error to 2. Which one is punished? Of course, it's the Arsenal one. So I don't think Arteta's plan was a complete failure. Arsenal's plan did fail ultimately today on Sunday in terms of, did they execute a game plan to go and win Tottenham and unsettle them? No, I think Tottenham had far too much joy. I also thought that they were far more composed and far more professional in the way they approached the game. I've said that on lots of different pieces of content. But I did also think that Arsenal, at times in that first half, considering the first 10 minutes Tottenham were quite comfortable on the ball and then they ended the half the stronger, I did think there was a 35 minute period where Arsenal, I thought, were the better team. I thought Arsenal had plenty of opportunities to go and get that second or third, plenty of openings as well. And actually on another day, if Arsenal were a bit more clinical and a bit more decisive in both penalty areas, attack their attacking penalty area well, defend their goalkeeper well as well, I think Arsenal might be going into half-time 2, maybe 3-0 up. So it wasn't a complete disaster, but Arsenal failed to build on that going into the second half. Now, before we talk about the second half and the substitutions, I want to talk about where our midfield suffered, because let's face it, Arsenal's midfield had a little bit of a disaster. Let's bring it all the way back. Apologies, everyone. Take it back to here, to the 11s, how it is. Okay, now what you've got here, Ødegaard and Rice, or Ødegaard and Vieira, sorry, Rice is the sitter. They're your 2-8 floating sort of, to support the front three. Rice covers a lot of ground on his own so that they can get forward and help Saka and Jesus. And Rice has a lot of coverage to do. Zinchenko will come in as well, but he had to make sure he held his position at times because of the likes of Kulusevski. Now, the midfield, I felt, really, really struggled and I think failed to do their job in this game against Tottenham. What do I mean by that? Let's start with our captain, Martin Ødegaard, who, once he got that yellow card, I felt suddenly couldn't press with the same intensity, couldn't go chasing all over the pitch, didn't want to. There was one moment where, in this corner here, he left one on Van de Ven. Do you remember? Van de Ven, I think, came inside, and Ødegaard just left a leg out. And it wasn't a yellow card or anything particularly malicious, but I think it was just I'm letting you know you're there and I'm disrupting your rhythm a little bit. The minute Ødegaard got a yellow card for, I think it was gesturing to the referee that he should be giving a yellow card to Udogie, which was coming out anyway, so it was really stupid from Ødegaard. I felt that he lost his intensity in the press, and actually Arsenal's intensity dropped a little bit. But this isn't the only area in which Ødegaard really struggled in this game. Having been brilliant against PSV, brilliant against Everton, he really wasn't at the races today. And in this Maddison-Ødegaard battle, I hate to say it, we've got to face it, Maddison came out on top with 2 assists. Here are Ødegaard's stats from the game. Passes completed. Only 19 of his 28 attempted passes actually made it to the intended player. That's a completion rate of 68%. So low for a player who is typically so reassured in possession, so safe, makes the right decisions. I even felt some of his through balls and decisions about when to open up or whatever he got wrong at times. It wasn't a great showing in that sense. His attacking third passes completed, only 8 of his 13, so 5 times he gave the ball away in the attacking third. Forward passes completed 6 out of 11, so almost half of his forward passes he got wrong. Forward passes, almost half. And he didn't create a single big chance in the game as well, as you can see from this graphic. So a really poor showing from Ødegaard, but a really poor showing from our 8s in general. We think we need to understand how and why this happened. What I've got here, courtesy of the analyst, is Shooting from left to right, we've got, and by the way, that was true for all the graphics I've shown you as well before as well, that it's all left to right. But what I've shown you here is Ødegaard's passes. So the number 8 is where he's standing and the arrow is where the ball travels and ends up. And I just want to, before I pass too much comment, just have a little look at this, just digest it a sec. And then I'm going to show you Fabio Vieira's just going to come up now. Have a little look at this. Take it all in, and now I'm going to show you the Havertz one. Here's Havertz. Very left leaning, right? Really out to the left. Now, my issue is, and let's run through them all over again. Back to the Ødegaard one. One ball into the penalty area from Ødegaard. That's it. There's another that actually crosses the penalty area, but that's it. Only one pass from Martin Ødegaard into the penalty area. Vieira, not one into the penalty area. Havertz, not one completed pass into the penalty area. Our rates are expected to get forward into these areas so that they can bring in Bukayo Saka, they can bring in Jesus, and okay, they did for the deflected Romero goal, that worked quite well, and they can be supplying Eddie Nketiah, but they weren't doing that, and they're doing that while leaving Declan Rice, or whoever the sitting midfielder is, quite exposed. More on that in a sec. The question is with this, is it a problem with Eddie Nketiah? Is Eddie not showing for the ball enough? Are these passes not on because, let's get the ball out. Apologies, bear with me one sec. No, there we go, let's try this again. Okay, is this not happening because Eddie isn't showing for the ball to be able to combine, to be able to bring players into the game? Or is it because the number 10s, Vieira, Ødegaard, or advanced 8s, whatever you want to call them, aren't getting into spaces where they can combine? Well, let me show you this from last season. I've analysed our passing in this North London derby at home compared to the North London derby at home last season when we won 3-1. Gabriel Jesus led the line. Here are some stats. You're going to see them all at once, but I'll go through them one at a time. Eddie Nketiah, passes received. In brackets, I've got 23, 24, because that's the season I'm talking about. 12 times he received the ball in this season's game. Only once did he receive it from our number 8s. That's Ødegaard, Vieira, and Kai Havertz. Once, people. Only once did Nketiah get the ball from Vieira or Ødegaard. That doesn't feel right. And Arsenal totaled 317 passes. So of our 317 passes that day, one was from one of Ødegaard, Vieira or Havertz into Eddie Nketiah. Compared to last season, Jesus, that's why I got 22-23 because that's the season before. 33 passes Jesus received in the game against Tottenham last season at home. That's 21 more times. Flip the digits and add that for Nketiah's tally. You know, it's significantly more. Passes received from the number 8 in the game, 8 times. And Arsenal completed 511 passes in that game. Jesus has an ability when he's up top to link play to bring everyone together. What was our most fluid performance of the season so far? It was undoubtedly the PSV game. Undoubtedly, when Jesus was at the heart of everything, everything seemed to connect. Everything seemed to come together. And I'm just comparing 2 derbies there, but there's no doubt that when it's Eddie Nketiah, I didn't focus on Eddie Nketiah. I was talking about how he's improved massively in terms of linking up and bringing people into play. But you can always see in these bigger games, in the tougher occasions, like Goodison away, like a North London derby at home. I think he did okay in the Man United game, but it was nothing special. I think he did fine though. You see that we were lacking Jesus up front. And where I think Arteta's got this wrong is you're sitting there going, well, we don't have our main left wingers. So rather than trusting Reece Nelson, the left winger we just gave a new contract to and we supposedly believe in, we're actually going to mess around with it and end up with 2 strikers with one of them played out on the left just to try and accommodate for, well, I don't know what it is. What do we want in Nketiah's work rate? Do we want his kind of ability to be a fox in the box and kind of pick up good goal scoring positions? Ultimately, it didn't work. Now, at the time of the 11 coming out, I didn't hate on it. I wasn't sitting here going, what an absolute disgrace, what's Arteta on about, what's he doing? But in game, we could see it wasn't working, and Nketiah wasn't having an impact. And so leaving him on for the 90 and taking off Jesus, I thought was a crazy, crazy decision. But I also want to show you this. Now, this is, I saw James Benge was tweeting about this, so I wanted to bring it up and show you all as well. It comes from Stats Perform, and it's basically a second half pass map. It's got the average position of certain players, and it's got basically who they were passing to more. The thicker the line, the more they kind of combined. But look at Jorginho. Like, you know, Havertz and Ødegaard are miles away. Ødegaard's closer to Saka, and Havertz is closer to Zinchenko than they are to Jorginho. So my big question here is If these number 10s and 8s aren't combining with our striker well enough, bring the ball into Vieira, get Jesus up the pitch, if they are not combining and getting close enough, and we are still getting outrun in midfield, what's the benefit to leaving all this space for a Declan Rice and then Jorginho in the second half? Because I felt there were far too many opportunities, especially for Tottenham in the second half, to basically play through us. It happened in the first half as well. But they were able to just play through us because the press didn't quite work at first. And then Jorginho and Rice were going, whoa, okay, I've got to manage this on my own. And I don't understand how Arsenal's central midfield essentially failed to do anything in terms of being the supporting cast for the front three, or at least giving support to the defensive midfielders so we wouldn't get over the run. Basuma, Sarr and Maddison had a lot of fun, especially Basuma, especially Maddison. I thought Sarr did his bit as well, but they just had loads of fun, you know, covering ground, strutting their stuff, playing their football, because Arsenal couldn't really get near them, and they were able to play through us quite significantly on quite a few occasions. Let's take this back to, let's get everyone back in. I want to talk about the subs now that Arteta made. Vieira, Rice, let's get Ødegaard back in there, let's get Saka back in here, and then Nketiah led the line. Okay, cool. So I said he went with this 11, I wasn't hating on it too much. Look, it's not the 11 I would have gone with, but cool, he went with it. Arteta's got to be able to react in game. Now on the last show, I praised massively Arteta's ability to use his subs this season. He's been fantastic with them, he's got them right, he's made them at the right times, he's given the right minutes to certain players. But now I'm looking at this, I'm going, he's had a bit of a shocker in this one. Now the first two things that happened, Declan Rice comes off with a back injury, cool. So that's the first forced change. We're going to find Jorginho over here, thank you. So Jorginho comes in. He's meant to. He disappeared, funnily enough. He's recreating his performance. That's harsh. He actually made the mistake because he didn't disappear. Jorginho here at the base. You've got Vieira and Ødegaard. Now, I have a theory, based on nothing, that he saw Sarr, Basuma, Maddison, very dynamic midfield three, good on the ball. I think he thought we don't have enough in Vieira, Ødegaard and Jorginho to match them physically. So that's why I think Vieira comes off and he chooses to go with Kai Havertz purely because he's 6'3", and he's actually, weirdly, and I'm not... He didn't really do great in this game, Havertz, and he hasn't made a good start to life at Arsenal at all. But I think Havertz is someone who has shown actually quite a good work rate. He's been quite committed. He still looks flimsy in the tackle, but he is going into it. And I just think he thought 6'3", win some headers, be good on set pieces, maybe give us something from set pieces going the other way. Let's have him in next to Jorginho so there's a little bit of physicality. It didn't work, but I think that was the idea. So then everyone's going, well, what could he have done differently then? What could he have done differently if you've got, Havertz, Havertz has come on, Vieira's come off, maybe you could bring on Smith Rowe. I think he should have, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but a lot of this is hindsight, of course. I think he should have, and I know he's not played much football at all, but if he's on the bench, then you've got to think he's available. I think El Neni should have come on for Kai Havertz, whether it's at half-time or later in the game when he realised it wasn't working, just to give Jorginho a little bit of protection, and then Ødegaard. Give him a more floating 10 role. He was really struggling to combine on the right-hand side. He wasn't having a good game. Let him float in the 10 and just see where he can kind of impact the game and get involved and see if he can combine on the left a little bit more. The next thing I think he should have done, rather than taking Jesus off, Eddie Nketiah, I'm getting, where is he, Reece Nelson on, and I'm moving him to the left wing, and I'm getting Jesus up top. Let's just get everyone in line a little bit here. There we go. Ødegaard in the 10 behind Jesus. Let them try and combine, get a 10 closer to our striker, and then get a more out-and-out raw dribbler in Nelson, running at the fullback. When I say dribbler, I mean obviously Jesus is a brilliant dribbler, but I'm saying someone who's really direct, likes to attack fullbacks. And then you could have had something a little bit more balanced. Listen, in big 2023, do I think this is a midfield that A, inspires me, or B, that can win the title? No, absolutely not. But I also think we've got to recognise here that needs must. Declan Rice has gone off at half-time. Partey's not available. If you're down to your third and fourth choice, defensive midfielders, actually they're not bad for third and fourth choice defensive midfielders. And I think they could have helped themselves. They could have helped each other and got through the rest of the game. And then maybe, if I'm sort of overdoing it, I think Zinchenko maybe you could take off and bring on Tomiyasu. Why? I know Zinchenko's a better attacking option, but Tomiyasu has actually shown ability to help us sustain pressure in certain attacking areas of the pitch. It worked against Man United. I'm surprised he didn't look at it for this game as well. So this is, I think, how the team should have ended. You also have to say, Saka ends up, getting injured, and he left him on far too long. So you move Nelson to the right, and you bring on Emil Smith-Rowe. And this is probably how the team should have ended the game. Yeah, maybe you're going to bank on Kai Havertz, you're going to bring on up front if Jesus is still struggling. Maybe you're going to try, there's a little bit of a wild card. But I think, a little bit of the benefit of hindsight. How many times have these two, by the way, benefited from playing together? Ødegaard in the 10 and Smith-Rowe on the left drifting inside. I think he could have asked different questions, Arteta, and I think he got this wrong. And ultimately, the midfield, it wasn't helped at all by the substitutions. In fact, I think we got worse. The first half, we just about held it together. Rice, a big part of that. Once he came off, we really, really struggled. Now, I mentioned the injuries there, and I do think it is worth just saying, for context, look at this injury list. Jurriën Timber, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard. You could even add Bukayo Saka on there, but I think he limped off and was probably going to be okay. Declan Rice missed the second 45 of the game against Tottenham as well. These are 5 players that you absolutely would have had. I think Timber, Partey, Rice and Martinelli all start in this game if they're available. And I think we win this game if they're available. Hell, I think we win this game if Jesus takes that chance. If Jesus takes that chance when he wins the ball off Maddison, I think we win this game. But that's not how it panned out. That's not how it went. And we didn't respond to the big moments well enough. Tottenham responded to it better. But with the injuries, I do think it's worth just mentioning that. It is unfortunate. We needed to respond and show something different. And I think with the resources he had, albeit more limited than he would like to Arteta, I think he could have done a little bit better with the substitutions. I've tried to break down there where I think went wrong. I think midfield was a really, really key area. I think we were just, I keep saying it, and there's no stats that back this up. I just think we were a bit unprofessional, a bit emotional in the game. I think we didn't manage the occasion as well as Tottenham, and that's why they were able to play some brilliant football, keep their heads, keep calm, and believe in everything they were doing, despite going 1-0 down, then 2-1 down. Arsenal didn't manage those occasions well enough, and ultimately, I don't think Arteta, whether it was from the sidelines as a very animated figure, we love him for that at times, also think there's a time and place, but also in terms of his management of the starting 11, but mainly the subs, I think ultimately all played a part. And like I said, the players don't get off scot-free either. The players, a lot of them really didn't show up for this derby. The only people I can really kind of give any credit to is the back four. It wasn't Tomiyasu in the end, it was Zinchenko. But the back four, I think, actually stood up to a pretty difficult task considering they were quite exposed and ran out quite a few times because of the dysfunctional midfield. Everyone, I hope you've enjoyed the Tactical Insight show. Not one we wanted to do. We wanted to be talking about a win today. It wasn't to be, but I think we hopefully learned a lot from this and we can build on it. It's still 4 wins out of 6 in the league with 2 draws, undefeated. It is still, and I know it's 2 draws at home to Fulham and Tottenham, disappointing, but it is also 6 wins in 8 when you look at the Community Shield, the PSV. It's not a bad start to the season at all for Arsenal, and we as fans need to absolutely stay behind the team, but Arteta and the players need to show us that this is going to click and we're going to learn from our errors sooner rather than later, because I dare say there's a few of these moments and situations where I think fans were feeling something and ultimately were proved right. And you don't want the fans to leave with that frustration of, I told you so, I told you so. But the manager knows best, and I've got no doubt he can get this right. So let's build on it. Got Brentford in the week, and then we'll be back for another Tactical Insight next Monday after the Bournemouth game on the weekend. Champions League follows later that week, and then it's Man City Sunday next week, I think it is. Can't remember which day it is, but lots of big football to play for Arsenal, lots of very competitive action. I look forward to seeing how they do. Everyone, a big thank you for joining the show. Hit the like button if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to AFTV if you haven't yet, and check out all the fallout from the Tottenham game, but also all the upcoming previews and everything ahead of Brentford. Catch you in a bit.